If I had a $100 gift card and I was just starting out bass fishing, how would I spend it? Knowing what I know now. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. I got a fun one. This is just something randomly I came up with. I got a gift card for Tackle Warehouse for Christmas, and was thinking about how I'd spend it. And so I was thinking about that, and also a combination of I have a couple guys I got into bass fishing recently, and they're just starting out. They have no idea what they're doing, and they're asking me for ideas for what to buy first. And so I thought it'd be fun to make a video just focusing on a combination of the two. So I went ahead and recorded me going through and doing some shopping. Unfortunately, the audio didn't pick up. I'm going to just do a little overlay here. Okay, starting out, I am going to focus on hooks and weights. So if I were to only buy a couple different kinds of hooks, I would go with an offset hook of some sort for Texas rig. You gotta go with that. All right, and I've been using Gamakatsu offsets since I started bass fishing, so definitely would go this direction. Now, Gary Yamamoto himself uses a 3/0, and I've used a 3/0 since day one. I like that size because you can get smaller baits on there, and you could still manage to get your bigger, relatively big baits on there, like a Rage Craw or a 5-inch Senko, that sort of stuff. So that's mostly what I use them for. So if I were to pick one, it would be a 3/0 EWG offset hook. All right, now it looks like I'm going with drop shot hooks, and specifically, I'm just throwing on one that I like. They're not cheap, but I don't go through too many of them, so VMC Spin Shot is what I go with, and those are solid. I just, drop shot guys may have a better option, but this is what I started using. Had no issues with them, so I just continued using them. So if I were to pick one, maybe a size 2 would be great. I like a smaller hook for when those fish are super finicky post spawn. And of course, summertime gets a little rough. So that's the size I would go there. Okay, flipping the head. I like tungsten weights. This is probably not the best direction to go if I only had $100, but I'm just going to go that route anyway. I did a 3/8 ounce and just one pack in this scenario. Just a worm weight of any sort. I use worm weights I like the shape. They get through weeds really well, and I'll use that even with creatures and that sort of thing, and I have no issue at all. Now, I actually don't get my weights on Tackle Warehouse. I bought my weights about 5 years ago off a Chinese website that was very cheap, but you got to buy in bulk. So I spent about $70, and I've already made it like 5 years without needing any more. And I still got probably another 2 years worth of weights left. So that was a great idea. I'm very glad I did that. Got to have some weights. You pair that up with your offset 3/0, and you got yourself a great setup for fishing shorelines, and I throw it a lot offshore too. Find some offshore weed piles, and that's absolute money. Absolute money. Okay, next, got to get some drop shot weights if you're getting the hooks, right? So I also don't get these from Tackle Warehouse. I go with some other cheap source, and I'll just buy them by the 25, 50 pack or something like that. Saves money. But if I were to do it here, Eagle Claw is pretty cheap, and I've used those, and they're fine. And might go with a little heavier than a 1/4 ounce, but just for the sake of getting something in my cart, I just went with that size 12 pack. You go through those, if you guys do some drop shotting around cover, you go through those things. All right, my favorite category, especially for springtime, is the jigs. All right, I love dirty jigs in general. They just do a fantastic job with their colors. And I don't know, maybe they're luring in fishermen more than fish, but I love their colors. So you just got to go with something black and blue for sure. That is, I fish dirty lakes in early spring, and that seems to be the way to get bit. Now, I do use a lot of natural. Actually, most of the year I use natural colors, but for the specific water and the conditions that I fish early spring, I definitely need some black and blue in my arsenal. And I always buy a few of these every spring just to get through March and early April. That's my go-to color for sure. All right, now so natural colors, I'm not picky. I actually don't want anything too bright, too crazy, because I throw natural colors when fish are finicky, and it seems like fish are always finicky. I mean, gosh, I'm always having to trick these fish into biting. Safe to say, if you only got a couple colors, you can get natural and black and blue. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the no jacks. It's a little heavy for the type of fish we catch. And if you're hooking 15 pounders, different story. But we don't have that kind of fishery. So I just go with in this case just another pitch and jig. It's a good all around jig, and you could essentially throw it at anything. I don't have jigs for each scenario like a lot of these tackle junkies. I just stick with one, throw it around cover, and it's usually how I fish them. And or just drag and bottom. You could do either or with these. So yeah, same thing. I have a couple compact on here and a couple regular size, and that'll get me through spring. I start out with compact and upsize, when I find the bites improving. Now these are money. Strike King Bitsy Bug. This is just so money. I've caught a 9-pounder from a dock using one of these. I've caught an 8.5-pounder from my Livingston using one of these. So for a cheap little piece of crap jig, it can handle big fish, and it sure works. And I haven't been throwing them lately, but I got to get back to it. I mean, those things catch fish. And that way, they're a little cheaper. You could throw them without worrying about losing them. All right, yeah, see here, I got a football head jig. I don't think it's absolutely necessary if you only have $100, but it's become a big part of my arsenal. So in my case, it's got to get in my first $100. Now keep in mind, I do a lot of offshoring for big smallmouth, and that's a good technique. All right, and you got to go with the Senko. Yeah, I would thumbs down a video if it didn't include a Senko on your first $100. Come on now. This is hands down probably the best bait on the planet. So yeah, pair it up with those worm weights, or just throw it weightless on that 3/0, and it's money. I do 2 colors in general. Again, same deal, black and blue, and then something natural. Now skipping ahead here, trailers. I'm looking for trailers for my jigs and some sort of craw imitation. So I'm just picking out the grubs for the moment. Boring again. I'm pretty dang boring when it comes to these color options. I want to stick with something natural, and then again, black and blue. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty darn simple. Yep, got to get the black and blues in here. This is literally what I throw in March. And I get some big largemouth every March. So I can't leave home without these. All right, what's next? Yeah, I like the Rage Craws from Striking. I think they make one of the best craws on the market. Maybe not the cheapest, but certainly effective. And again, boring. Look at that. Boring. Green pumpkin, black flake. As boring as you can get. And you know it. And if I had a little more money in this little for this video, I would sneak another black and blue in there. But for the sake of trying to budget, I'm just gonna do one color here. Yeah, swim jig. Yeah, that's what we need. All right, swim jig. I think these are just huge. Every year I catch monsters pre-spawn with these swim jigs. And so I couldn't leave it out. So yeah, I use a couple different types for different scenarios, but in general, I go with something natural. 3/8 is great. I even throw a half ounce here and there, depending on what I'm fishing. And just some color like this is great. I like a little bit more of a bluegill imitation because I know that's what they're thinking of when the way I fish it like a bluegill swimming around cover in the spring, and just absolutely does the trick. So you can't leave home without that. And honestly, I should make a video about specifically swim jigging because it is such a staple in my arsenal every year, and it's a fun way to fish. I mean, it's a blast. Just getting thumped while you're slow rolling one of those, it's just fun. All right, and then this is my choice for trailer, and I don't really deviate much. I mean, you know, any paddle tail swim bait is gonna probably do the trick. And if I were to pick one, I actually go natural a lot of the time, but if I were to pick one with a little color, because this is a little bit more power fishing, so I don't mind a little more color fishing this technique. So yeah, see, that's a little more natural, but I like a little something with orange or even some flake of some sort. But in this case, I'm just picking something straightforward, and that AU is it's a good color. I always keep that on my boat. So there you go. That could be for your swim jigs, and also could be a good chatterbait trailer once I get to that. But I couldn't forget to get a Robo Worms for my drop shot setup. I think that would generally be my number one pick for a drop shot bait. And since I'm not diving in deep here, if I were to only pick one bait, I would go Robo Worm, pack of 4.5, pack of 6 inches, that is. And that should basically cover everything. Now, sometimes these fish are finicky and they only like certain things, sometimes only a 3-inch bait, etc. But in general, this is a great starting point. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to exceed this budget, and I'm going to have to revise this list. So, but I couldn't help it. You got to get a frog on here. And I'm not terribly picky about frogs. But yeah, the pad crashers are great. I use those. I have a couple other frogs too, but just in general, this style of frog would be, if I were to only buy one, that would be the one. And yeah, that's huge. I caught a 9.2 pounder and quite a few big fish on a frog. So it's a must have. Oh yes, oh yes. And you gotta have a chatterbait. I'm a huge fan. I think that's a big fish bait right there. Um I so many big fish. And honestly, I haven't been picking it up enough. And you can fish cold water with them. Something about it, getting that reaction bite. So early spring, it works. Even when the fish are sluggish, it'll get them moving. Not necessarily how, probably not the number one way I use to catch them in early spring, but it's certainly right there. I mean, April, I think April's number one month for chatterbaits. Got some big ones. Look at how boring I am. Another straight up natural color. Even though this is a little bit more power fishing, I still keep it natural on the chatterbaits for some reason. I could be making a mistake in that regard, um, but yeah, I use other colors too, bright colors, but I just have a little confidence with that natural color. And I think that should do it. So now to see where I landed on the budget. But I already got a bad feeling. 134, not bad, but I do have to cut a couple things out if I were to realistically make this work. So, I don't need all the jigs, so I'm going to scamp here, scamp here, and I'm pretty darn close. If I were to scamp anywhere else, yeah, I had an extra hula grub in there or double tail. All right, and that's the list. That is the go-to list. And for anyone just starting out, this is the way I would do it if I were to do it all over again. And this is what I recommend. I'm actually going to send this exact list to a couple buddies and get them properly set up. See, I got to just cut one of those packs off and then I'm basically there. So not bad. Not bad. 105. 106. So that's it, y'all. And thanks for tuning in again. And I thought this was a fun one. Just a little improv video, just real quick. And I know everyone's got their brands that they like more than others. And setting that aside, if there's any technique or baits on here that you don't really have or don't really try much, I obviously I highly recommend everything on here. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. And I'll put together another video pretty soon. All right, y'all. Happy New Year.